Hello and welcome to the Opening the Gates July 2024 UK property market update, where I am going to be going through the most comprehensive update on what's been going on in the property market since the Labour landslide victory at the start of July. So we're going to be seeing how July has performed versus previous years. I'm also going to be looking at mortgage approvals, transaction numbers, Bank of England base rate reduction and what that means, and then looking at various house price indexes across Rightmove, Zoopla, Nationwide, Halifax. So as always, I'm going to jump straight into it and go through things. So to start with, we're looking at the Opening the Gates July market update. Shout out to the guys at 20EA that allow me to go and collate this data and put it together. So as always, just going to confirm from left to right, July 2024 against June 2024, so the previous month. Then in the middle, we've got July 24 against July last year. And then on the right-hand side, we've got July 24 against the 6-year average for July. So that is the figures from July 2019 through every July to 2024. So to start with, we've got on the market, i.e. properties for sale. It's been 2% rise on June 2024. So increase in number of properties available. 13% rise on July last year. So considerable amount more properties available. And then it's 19.5% up on the 6-year average. So there is more choice for buyers, which is great news because that is going to bring more people to market. That will then mean more sales being agreed. With more properties available and higher mortgage costs, that is going to stunt house price growth. So what sellers need to bear in mind as well is that if they've got more competition from other sellers, buyers have got more choice. Buyers' affordability is a bit stretched. They've got to price correctly from the outset if they're going to sell. New listings up 3% on June, up 9.5% on July last year, and 2% up on the 6-year average. So what this shows again is confidence from sellers wanting to come to market. But more importantly, there hasn't been an influx and an oversupply of sellers, which would cause negative house price growth to the market. So very positive signs there. And that positivity continues onto sales agreed. So 3% up on June, 28% up on July last year, and only 1.5% down on the 6-year average. So unsurprisingly, there's a big increase in sales agreed versus July 23. We're still feeling the effects of the mini budget hangover of the autumn of 2022. But with everything we've gone through over the past 2 years, that mini budget hangover, inflation, mortgage rising, mortgage cost rising, war, cost of living crisis, the list goes on to only be 1.5% down on 6-year average, considering 2021, 22 of July was stamp duty holiday or low stock levels or record low interest rates. To be where we are, I think is very, very good going. I think we've got to remember some of the results being achieved in the past 2 years have been in a market where interest rates have been rising, and at 5.25%, they were the highest they've been in 16 years. So price changes. I am a broken record when it comes to price changes. If you want to find out more about the negative impact on price changes and you haven't already seen, heard, or watched me talk about it, please do reach out to me and I'll share some valuable insights with you on that. But price reductions are 12% up on June. They're 5.5% up on July last year, and they're a whopping 30% up on the 6-year average. So, of course, during 2021, 22, with how the market was going crazy, sort of during that COVID period and very low interest rates, price reductions were really non-existent, but they have now returned, if not exceeded, the more normal pre-pandemic 2019 levels. So price reductions is a big concern that needs to be watched. It's also an opportunity to target other properties on with other estate agents as well. Back on the positive theme, less withdrawals happening. So 27% reduction on June, 28.5% reduction on July, and a 17% reduction on the 6-year average. My viewpoint on this is that more serious sellers are on the market and more realistic with their pricing, even if it's not at the start. They're then listening to their agent and reducing their price, which means that they are less likely to withdraw. I think in previous markets, in recent years, because of how crazy and positive the market was, some sellers were going on at crazy prices, hoping for a unicorn price, and if it didn't come, or if they couldn't find what they're looking for, they just came off. So again, I think really positive news. We've got more serious movers in the market. Fall throughs are up across the board. I don't want to sound flippant with this comment, but I think that is just a knock-on effect of more sales being agreed. There is going to be more fall throughs. I'd probably say this every market update, but if you're not already looking at reservation agreements, go and speak to Brian Mansell and Gazelle. There's probably other providers out there as well, but I know that a lot of clients I work with use Gazelle, speak very highly about it, and their fall through rates are in single digits, and they're a half, if not a third, of what the UK average is. So imagine the lost revenue that you could bring back into your business as cold hard profit if you didn't have those sales falling through. Again, if you want any insight or advice on how you can reduce your fall through rate, please do reach out to me. And then last but not least, relistings. So 14.71% increase in the number of properties returning to market versus June, 37.5% increase on July last year, and a whopping 41% increase on the 6-year average. More properties coming back to market as they can see rates are coming down. There's more choice maybe for them in terms of what they're looking for. Maybe prices are a little bit more optimistic. So it's a great opportunity. So please do go target the properties that are for sale or withdrawn with other estate agents. I think the data from 20 EA Inspector is 46% of properties that withdraw come back on within 1 year. Also make sure that you're looking at withdrawn properties in your own CRM and going back and having conversations with them. Because how annoying would it be if one Smith Street in 6 months' time came on the market with another agent and you'd lost contact with them? So moving on to prices, new listing average asking price in July last year it was 417. Now it's just under £431,000. So just looking at my notes, that's a 3.27% increase on last year, but it is 3.33% down on June. That is to be expected. You normally find that happens in July each year, and the Rightmove House Price Index that I'm going to go through will confirm that as well. And then new listings average pounds per square foot has gone from 360 to 390, which is a whopping 8.33% increase on July last year. It's also 0.78% up on June. So rather than the prices, just looking at pounds per square foot there, because it's such a valuable thing to look at, that is a significant increase there. So again, just bear in mind, need to rein in sellers who are getting a little bit too carried away with their pricing because of some positivity that's being seen in the market. However, new asking prices are one thing. Only a half of those properties that come to market in July will probably go on to sell. So it's as important, if not more important, to look at the properties that actually have sales agreed and what prices they're achieving. So sales agreed in July 23 was just over 355,000. And in July, it was just under 364,000. So that's a 2.41% increase compared to a year ago, but it is 2.47% down on June. Average pounds per square foot, though, has remained level with last month, and it is 4.52% up on last year. If you're not already using pounds per square foot day to day in your business and using it in the living room with sellers, I strongly recommend you do. Because when it comes to pounds per square foot, hopefully I explained this okay, might have explained it before. You kind of comparing apples with apples, not apples with pears. And what I mean by that is that with average asking prices, you might, for example, have a higher number of properties come on at a higher asking price, which could impact the average asking prices. And then properties at the lower end of the market have a higher propensity to sell. Therefore, you might get more sales at 200 grand than you would at 700 grand. That's going to impact the average asking price. Whereas with pounds per square foot, you'll find it's very similar across the board. So it's, in my opinion, a much better measure to use. It's not going to be everything when it comes to appraising property, but it will give you a really, really good steer on the objective side of evaluation. Then you have the other factors which will impact the subjective side, such as presentation, condition, supply, demand, sellers, needs, wants, motivations, etc., etc. So I hope that will make sense there. Again, if anyone wants to know more about pounds per square foot or wants insight and access to a great website for pounds per square foot, please do reach out to me. Right, on to activity in the market. So where am I? Net mortgage approvals for house purchases, as you can see, continues to rise or remain steady and is getting to around the 60,000 mark, which is, I think, around 10% lower than the pre-pandemic norm. So we are moving in the right direction for mortgage approvals. And as that bank rate comes down, we will continue to see more mortgage movers, excuse me, come back to market. Number of monthly property transactions, again, very, very steady, slightly up on June last year and continues to move in the right direction. This transaction data is from Land Registry, which is going to be a few months behind. And then also my understanding is that not all transactions come in at once. They are kind of done over a period of time. So I think we'll see those transaction numbers continue to rise as well. And as you can see from the sales agreed numbers that I've already gone through, if that's going to take, what, 4 or 5 months to go through, we're going to be seeing that positive impact on the market later down the line. And then the thing we've all been waiting for, the Bank of England base rate on the 1st of August dropped from 5.25% to 5%. That was the first drop in, I think, 4.5 years after we'd had about 9 pauses in a row. The rate had been the highest in 16 years since 2008. Just wanted to give some extra information on the bank rate. Again, I would have spoken about this previously. But the long-term average over 330 years, so I've tracked that back to 1694, is 5.91%. The average over the last 50 years, so going back to 1974, if my maths is correct, is just over 9%. And then the average base rate since the year 2000, so this millennium, is 3.49%. So in the grand scheme of things, a 5% base rate today isn't too shabby. Of course, compared to base rates lower than 2%, it is going to feel a lot. But just remember, to any buyers you're speaking to, January 2009 until December 2021, if my memory serves me correctly, that was a sub 2% market. That was only 12 years, give or take. Now, over a 330-year period, I'm just working this out off the cuff, that's only 3.5% of the time. So some people who've only bought and sold or been estate agents between January 2009 and December 2021, they think that sub 2% base rate market is the norm, but in actual fact, it's the anomaly. Today, we are in a more normal market. I'm not here to be unrealistically optimistic. There is still an issue with affordability and house price to earning ratios, but when a flippant comment is being made around interest rates, I think it's important to know the bigger picture. So we're going to move on now to the Rightmove House Price Index. So as I said earlier, Rightmove House Price Index has reported a 0.4% drop in average asking prices, but sales agreed are up 15%, which is great to see. Couple of comments they make as well around new sellers being steady, 3% up on last year. And the interesting thing to see here, the average 5-year fixed rate is now 4.97%, which is below the peak of 6.11% in July 23, but it is still much higher, pretty much double what it was in July 2021 before the consecutive increases happened. So actually, just to take that into account, 14 continuous increases followed by 9 pauses. We've now had this first reduction. What is that? 14. That was basically 23 meetings without a reduction. We've now had it, and I think that's why we're going to see a real strong end to the year for the market. The thing I want to run through down here as well is stock levels. So average agent has 61 properties on their books, including under offer sold, 50-50 split. So the average agent probably has 30 properties in their pipeline. Give or take, the average UK fee is probably not far off £3,000. The average UK agent probably has a £90,000 pipeline. So just think how yours compares to that. And then average time to secure a buyer has continued to come down from the start of the year. Not unsurprising because the spring market is more buoyant typically. But we are a few days, about 10% longer to find a buyer versus a year ago. So just something to consider there. Now onto the Zoopla House Price Index. What am I going to go through here? Activity levels. So buyer demand up, sales agreed up, new supply up, number of properties available up. What's great to see is that the number of sales agreed is significantly higher than the flow of new supply and stock of homes for sale. So that shows that supply is outstripping, demand is outstripping supply. What's interesting is housing market is the most balanced in 5 years, which is a positive thing, because we've had such a mismatch between supply, demand, interest rates, etc., etc. So being balanced is a great thing. However, if there's too much balance and stability, strangely, people can sit on their hands. So there still might be a wait and see approach, because some people might be like, are we going to be in a rising market? Is it going to decrease a bit? So make sure you're going out there and creating urgency on your market. I'm not for 1 minute suggesting you're forcing people into moving, but rather than them sitting and hesitating, explain to them the benefits of making a move now. Household income growth continues to rise, which is great news. If you look at unemployment levels as well, compared to 10 years ago in the long-term average, unemployment continues to be pretty low, which is why we've seen the positivity and resilience in the market that we have. I wanted to talk about this rented homes for sale. If you've not already listened to my 2-year anniversary special with Richard Donnell from Zoopla, who does these house price indexes, it's a fantastic and insightful conversation. And he talked about properties that are currently for sale being former rented homes. So give or take, it's around 10 to 15% of properties on the market for sale have previously been rented out. And at Zoopla, they're finding 40% of those properties stay in the rental sector. So they're either bought by another landlord or they end up not selling and they come back to the rental market. It's just something to note there. Again, if anyone wants to discuss how that impacts the rental and sales market, please do reach out to me. You can have a discussion on that. Again, sales agreed 22% up on pre-pandemic levels. Great news there. And then percentage of asking price being achieved. So now it's 96.3% as a UK average. Sorry, start again, 96.3% in the London and South East and 97.1% for the rest of the UK. So some real positive signs there in the percentage of asking price being achieved. As the percentage of asking price being achieved is lower, you're normally in a declining market, and the closer it is to asking price, you're in a rising market. So some really positive bits there. And then in terms of the outlook for the rest of the year, we're on track for about 1.1 million transactions. I think I was saying at the start of the year, I thought it'd be 1.1 million transactions. We're still 10% lower than 20-year average. But again, bearing in mind where interest rates have been and everything that's been happening, I think if you said at the start of the year there'd be 1.1 million transactions, I'm sure we would have probably snapped your hand off at that. So on to the UK house price index. So this is the stats for May. It was published a couple of weeks ago. Average UK property price is 285,000. That's a 2.2% annual rise and a 1.2% monthly rise. You can't get much more factual data than actual completed transactions. Yes, it's going to be a few months behind, but again, you've got a variety of different indexes we look at, and they've all got their pros and cons to it. So just on the UK house price index, what I've done is look back to where we were in 2019 to where we are now. So the average UK house price in May 19 was 229,000. It now sits at £285,000. So that is a £56,140 increase, which is 24.51% in the last 5 years. If you'd like to know more detail on what it is across your local area, again, reach out to me. Right, nationwide house price index. So there's a few things I wanted to run through on this. If I look to the house prices on the right-hand side, currently sat at 266,000, about a 2% rise on last year. And not far off the August peak of 273,751. Now, mortgage approvals for house purchases, as you can see, the 14 to 29 average was 66,000 a month. The 2019 average was just under 66,000, and the month just gone by is 60,000. So we're about 10% below the kind of pre-pandemic levels, but we are moving in the right direction. Now, something just to bear in mind, for example, borrowers with a 25% deposit, which is pretty standard across the market on a 5-year fixed rate deal, they're averaging 4.6% in recent months. That's more than double the 1.9% average recorded in 2019. And at the moment, first-time buyer, their mortgage repayment is equivalent of 37% of their take-home pay. It's well above the 28% pre-COVID average and a long-term average of 30%. So again, a mortgage is taking up 20% more of their pay than it has done in previous times. And that is why sellers need to be in the market, not on top of it. And they need to choose the right agent, right price, right marketing. It's so important on that. Now, the implied bank rate path as well. The base rate dropped from 5.25% to 5% on August 1st. It was a very close vote with 5 voting to reduce and 4 voting to pause. So if there's any buyers out there who are like, oh my God, rates are going to drop down to what they were a couple of years ago, it's certainly not looking that way. There might be a slow drop over the next 3 years where we might see it get to more like 3.5%. So again, anyone who thinks it's going to drop back to sub 2% tomorrow doesn't look that way. So again, rather than people sitting on their hands and waiting for mass drops in interest rates, if they can afford to do it and it makes sense to move, there's no time like the present. Halifax House Price Index. Again, they're reporting a slight drop monthly and quarterly, but an annual rise. And if we just scroll down to the prices, we're currently at 288.5 versus 284 a year ago. So again, not much between Nationwide and Halifax there in terms of up and down. Same with Rightmove and Zoopla. You can see that we're kind of in a pretty steady market. And then eServe data. Basically, it's showing that buyer sentiment is on the rise. Prices are steadily on the rise as well. So you can see here that a couple of months of price rises, which is positive to see. And the actual house price decline that they're reporting is significantly down on where it had been towards the end of 2023. So some very positive signs there. And then lastly, home.co.uk. Few things I want to run through here. They are saying the unsold sales stock count for England and Wales increased again during the last month to reach a 10-year high for July. So that's just something to bear in mind for sellers. Again, more competition, and that means more choice for buyers. We've got a healthy amount of property on the market. No, it is not an oversupply, but I think a lot of people were concerned would happen with rising interest rates. It certainly hasn't happened. But what we would have seen, I will come back to that actually. Properties per day, sales market turnover indicator. As you can see, sales continue to rise, which is great news, and more in line with where they were previously to pandemic. The bit I did want to say was this, the unsold property account. So again, a significant rise from COVID times in a number of properties for sale. But we're at a healthy balance between supply level and demand level. Just imagine what it's going to do when the interest rates do continue to just drop down a little bit there. And I think that is me. So that is the July UK property market update. There's no fancy infographics or AI or subtitles. I just want to give a raw, authentic update, give you what I'm seeing on the ground. If you have liked what you've seen, please do like, comment, give me feedback on what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of, any questions you've got, reach out. And don't forget to click the subscribe button. I'm very close to getting 100 subscribers on YouTube, and I would love nothing more to reach the magic 100. And if there's anyone else out there that you think would benefit from watching this, please do pass on the market update to them as well. And I will be back at the start of September reporting on the August 2024 market update. And it'll be interesting to see how the August market has done in the second month following the general election and the first month after the Bank of England dropped the base rate in 4.5 years. So stay tuned and I will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching.